got to be kidding me! You want me to bring extra pillows to the woman who spent 3 years trying to dismantle my marriage? I slammed the medical report onto the marble countertop, the sound echoing like a gunshot through our Chicago penthouse. I glared at Liam, my husband of 7 years, who was calmly packing a duffel bag as if he were preparing for a weekend golf trip, not a major organ heist. "Isabella, keep your voice down," Liam said, not even looking up. "Serafina is terrified. She's undergoing a transplant. I'm the donor. Have some damn compassion." Compassion? I marched over, grabbed the bag, and flipped it over. His silk shirts and toiletries tumbled onto the floor. "You stole $72,000 from our joint savings, money meant for our future home, to pay for your ex-girlfriend's surgery. You lied for months, told me you were at business seminars while you were getting poked and prodded for compatibility tests. Where was your compassion for me?" Liam finally looked at me, his eyes cold. "It's 45% of my liver, Bella. It's a gift of life. You're being incredibly small-minded about money right now." Small-minded? I felt the rage boiling in my throat, hot and metallic. That money was mine too. I worked 80-hour weeks at the firm for that gift of life. You didn't give her your liver, Liam. You gave her our life. And now you have the nerve to ask me to play nursemaid? The front door opened. In walked Margaret, my mother-in-law, carrying a stack of luxury blankets. She didn't even look at me as she handed them to Liam. "Don't listen to her, Liam," Margaret said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Some women just don't understand what it means to be a hero. Serafina needs you. She's a delicate soul, unlike some people who are built like tanks." I turned my fury toward her. "A hero? Margaret, your son is a thief." He embezzled from his own wife to fund a fantasy with a woman who dumped him 5 years ago because he wasn't rich enough. And you? You're encouraging him to abandon his wife for a mistress? "She is not a mistress!" Liam roared, stepping between us. "She is a human being in need. She is a parasite!" I screamed back, stepping right into his personal space. I was shorter than him, but in that moment, I felt 10 feet tall and made of pure fire. "And you are a coward. You couldn't even tell me the truth. You waited until the night before the surgery to drop this? You thought I'd just cry and say, oh, Liam, you're so brave. I expected you to be a wife," Liam shouted. "A wife supports her husband." "A husband doesn't rob his wife," I retorted. "A husband doesn't plan a secret surgery with his ex-girlfriend. Look at me, Liam. Look at my face. Do I look like a woman who is going to help you?" "We don't have time for this," Margaret huffed, checking her gold watch. "The car is downstairs. Liam, we need to go. Serafina's vitals are fluctuating. She's crying for you." Liam grabbed a few loose shirts from the floor, shoving them into the bag. "Bella, I'm going. When I get back from the hospital, I expect this house to be calm. I expect you to have cooled off. And yes, I still expect you to bring those supplies tomorrow. Don't make me regret marrying a woman with such a cold heart." "Cold?" I let out a sharp, hysterical laugh. "You have no idea how cold I can get. If you walk out that door, Liam, don't you dare think about the home you're coming back to, because it won't be this one." "Stop the drama, Isabella." Margaret rolled her eyes. "You're not going anywhere. You love this apartment too much." "Go," I whispered, my voice suddenly dropping to a dangerous, low vibrato. "Go save your delicate soul. See what it gets you." Liam shook his head, disgusted. "You're pathetic. Let's go, Mom." They walked out. The heavy door slammed shut, the vibration rattling the expensive crystal glasses on the bar. I stood in the silence, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The anger didn't fade. It solidified. It turned into a hard, sharp diamond of intent. They thought I was a tank? Fine. I would behave like one. I would flatten everything they loved. I reached for my phone, my finger steady now. I dialed my lawyer. Sarah, it's Isabella. I don't care what time it is. I need a restraining order, an emergency freeze on all accounts, and I want the locks changed on the penthouse. Now, and call the moving company. I have a lot of trash that needs to be hauled to the St. Jude Hospital parking lot. I looked at the empty space where Liam had stood. He wanted to give 45% of his liver to Serafina. I was going to make sure that was the only thing he had left. The game is just beginning, Liam. I hissed into the darkness. And I never lose. I'm sorry, Mrs. Reed. Did you say you want the entire wardrobe moved? It's 11 p.m., the foreman of the moving crew asked, scratching his head as he looked at the mountain of designer suits and expensive shoes I had piled in the center of the living room. I didn't stutter, Mike. I snapped, not breaking my gaze from the tablet in my hand as I watched the bank accounts drain into a private offshore fund. Every tie, every sock, every pathetic trophy he's ever won. I want it all in the back of your truck in 30 minutes. And the destination isn't a warehouse. It's the St. Jude Luxury Surgical Center. Drop it right in the middle of the reserved for surgeons parking lot. But ma'am, that's a $1,000 tip for each of your men if it's done before midnight, I interrupted, finally looking at him. My eyes were bloodshot from rage, but my hands were steady. Do we have an agreement? Crystal clear, ma'am. Move it, boys! As the movers scrambled, my phone vibrated. It was a text from Margaret. Liam is in prep. Serafina is terrified. The least you could do is send a supportive text. You are being incredibly cruel, Isabella. I felt a vein throb in my temple. Cruel? I typed back with a smirk that felt like a blade. Don't worry, Margaret. I'm sending something much better than a text. It's a delivery. Tell Liam to look out the window in an hour. I blocked her number immediately. I didn't have time for the venom of a woman who raised a thief. The locksmith arrived 20 minutes later. The screech of the drill against the high-security deadbolt was music to my ears. Each spark that flew felt like a tiny celebration of my liberation. New codes, Mrs. Reed? The locksmith asked. Change them to a random sequence. Only I get the key card. If a man named Liam or a woman named Margaret shows up, the alarm should trigger a direct police dispatch for trespassing, I instructed. By midnight, the penthouse was hauntingly quiet. The walk-in closet, once shared, now had a gaping hole on Liam's side, a void that mirrored the one he had ripped into our marriage. I walked to the bar, grabbed a bottle of $500 scotch, the one Liam was saving for his big promotion, and poured it down the kitchen sink. The lobby of the St. Jude Luxury Surgical Center smelled like expensive lilies and false hope. I marched through the sliding glass doors at 2 a.m., my heels clicking against the polished marble like the ticking of a time bomb. I didn't look like a grieving wife. I looked like a storm in a Chanel suit. As I approached the VIP surgical wing, I saw them. Margaret was huddled in a designer armchair, sipping a latte, while Liam was pacing the hallway in his blue hospital gown, looking frail and heroic. Isabella! Margaret gasped, standing up. Finally! Did you bring the silk pillows I asked for? And where is Liam's extra robe? I stopped 3 feet from them, my arms crossed. I didn't say a word. I just stared at Liam until he withered under my gaze. Bella, thank God you're here, Liam said, his voice shaky. The nurses, they're saying there's an issue with the payment. There's a hold on the funds. You need to call the bank and fix this. The surgeons are waiting. Serafina is already being prepped. Fix it? I tilted my head, a predatory smile spreading across my face. Liam, I didn't come here to fix the payment. I came here to watch it fail. The color drained from his face. What are you talking about? I reported the $72,000 as a fraudulent transfer, I said, each word sharp as a razor. Because that's what it is. You stole from me. And since I'm the primary holder of our premium insurance, I've also revoked the out-of-network coverage for this elective transplant. This hospital doesn't do charity work, Liam. No money, no surgery. You monster! Margaret shrieked, her latte spilling onto her shoes. Serafina will die! You're murdering her! No, Margaret! I turned to her, my eyes flashing. I'm just refusing to fund her life with my blood, sweat, and tears. If she's so delicate, maybe you should sell your jewelry and your Florida condo to save her. Why is it always my money that has to be the sacrifice? Bella, please! Liam stepped forward, trying to grab my hand. I recoiled as if he were a leper. I know you're angry, but this is a human life. We can talk about the divorce later. Just let the surgery happen. There is no later, Liam, and there is no we. While you were dreaming of being Serafina's savior, I was busy. The locks on the penthouse? Changed? Your bank accounts? Frozen. Your clothes? They're currently sitting in a heap in the parking lot next to a dumpster. You did what? Liam yelled, his voice cracking. At that moment, a head nurse approached, looking flustered. Mr. Reed? I'm afraid we have a serious problem. The billing department has flagged your account for fraud investigation. We cannot proceed with the transplant until a new form of payment, a certified $72,000, is cleared. And the insurance authorization has been withdrawn. Liam looked at me, pure hatred burning in his eyes. I will never forgive you for this, Isabella. Never. Good, I hissed, leaning in so close I could see the sweat on his forehead. I don't want your forgiveness. I want your ruin. You wanted to give her 45% of your liver? Go ahead. But you'll be doing it in a public hospital, on a 2-year waiting list, while you live in your mother's guest room, because you're leaving this VIP wing tonight as a broke, homeless man. Isabella Reed, you are a heartless bitch! Margaret screamed, lunging toward me. I didn't flinch. I caught her wrist in midair with a grip of iron. Careful, Margaret. I've already got the police on speed dial for the theft of my funds. Don't add assault to the family's list of crimes tonight. I shoved her hand back and turned to Liam, who was trembling, not from the cold, but from the sudden realization that his world had collapsed. The surgery is canceled, Liam, I said, checking my watch. And so is your life as I knew it. Have a nice night in the waiting room. I turned on my heel and walked away. Behind me, I heard Liam screaming my name and Margaret's shrill sobs. It was the most beautiful music I had ever heard. The adrenaline was still humming in my veins as I exited the surgical wing. I reached the elevators, but before the doors could close, a frantic hand jammed between them. Liam stumbled in, his hospital gown fluttering open at the back, a pathetic sight that stripped away every ounce of dignity he thought he had left. Margaret was right behind him, her face a blotchy mask of mascara and rage. You can't do this, Bella, Liam barked, his voice echoing in the small metal box. You're acting like a psychopath. That money was for a medical emergency. I hit the stop button. The elevator jolted and stayed still. I wanted them trapped here. I wanted them to hear every single word. A psychopath? I stepped toward him, forcing him to back into the corner. A psychopath is someone who gaslights his wife for 6 months. A psychopath is someone who watches his wife plan a future while he's planning a secret life with an ex-girlfriend. I'm not a psychopath, Liam. I'm the consequence of your actions. Isabella, listen to reason, Margaret pleaded, though her voice was shaking. Serafina is in pain. The doctor said if the transplant doesn't happen in the next 48 hours, the damage might be irreversible. Do you really want that on your conscience? My conscience is remarkably clear, Margaret. I snapped. Maybe if Serafina hadn't spent her 20s blowing her money on Coachella trips and designer handbags instead of health insurance, she wouldn't be in this position. And maybe if your son wasn't such a desperate white knight trying to win back a woman who cheated on him years ago, he wouldn't be standing here in a gown that shows his backside to the world. Liam's face turned a deep, bruised purple. I don't love her like that, Bella. I was just trying to do the right thing. Then do it with your own money, I roared, the volume of my voice making Margaret flinch. Go get a loan. Sell your organs on the black market. But you don't touch my inheritance. You don't touch the money my father left me, thinking I'd use it to build a family with a man of honor. I'll sue you, Liam hissed, his teeth clenched. Half of everything is mine. This penthouse, the accounts, I'll take you for every cent in divorce court. I couldn't help it. I laughed. A cold, mocking sound that chilled the air. Oh, Liam, you really should have read the post-nuptial agreement I made you sign last year after you accidentally lost $20,000 in that crypto scam. Liam froze. The memory hit him like a physical blow. The infidelity and financial misconduct clauses are very specific, I continued, my voice now a deadly quiet purr. By stealing $72,000 and using it to fund an ex-girlfriend's lifestyle, you've triggered the at-fault liquidation. You get nothing. Not the car, not the condo, not even the coffee maker. You planned this? Margaret whispered, horrified. No, I corrected her. I prepared for the possibility that my husband was a liar. He just happened to prove me right. I hit the G button and released the stop command. The elevator began to descend. When we hit the lobby, you're going to stay here and figure out how to tell your delicate Serafina that her hero is actually a broke fraud, I said. And Margaret, don't bother going back to the apartment for your things. I've already had your bag sent to that cheap motel by the airport. It's more your style. The doors slid open. The lobby was quiet, save for the night security guard. Isabella, please, Liam yelled as I stepped out. We can talk about this. Don't leave me like this. I didn't turn back. I walked straight to my car, the cool night air of Chicago hitting my face like a benediction. Behind me, the automatic doors stayed shut, locking them inside the sterile, expensive cage of their own making. I got into my Tesla, started the engine, and felt the silence of the cabin wrap around me. My phone buzzed. It was an alert from my home security system. Motion detected at front door. I pulled up the camera feed. It was the delivery crew. They were leaving the final crates of Liam's belongings in the hospital parking lot as instructed. Chapter 1 is closed, boys, I whispered to the screen. Time to start the real fire. The digital clock on my dashboard read 3:15 a.m. I didn't go home. I drove 2 blocks away, parked in the shadows of a parking garage, and pulled up the hospital's exterior security feed on my laptop, a little perk of being the interior designer who had updated their security suite last year. In the glowing blue light of the screen, I watched the chaos unfold. Liam and Margaret had finally made it to the parking lot. In the harsh, flickering glare of the streetlights, they looked like scavengers. Liam was still in his hospital gown, wrapped in one of the blankets I had rejected, frantically digging through the crates the movers had dumped. Looking for your dignity, Liam? I muttered, leaning back in my seat. You won't find it under your gym shorts. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. I knew it was him. I picked up, but I didn't say a word. Isabella, you psycho! Liam's voice was ragged, distorted by the wind and his own tears. It's freezing out here. My suits are getting ruined. There's a crowd of nurses watching us from the windows. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? Humiliation is a good teacher, Liam, I replied, my voice as smooth as silk. How does it feel to be the one on display? You wanted to be the star of a medical drama, didn't you? Well, congratulations, you're trending. I have a surgery in 2 hours, he screamed. I need to be in a sterile environment, not a parking lot. Call the hospital. Tell them the money is there. I'll pay you back, I swear on my life. You already swore on your life when we took our vows, and we see what that was worth, I said. And as for the surgery, the hospital board just held an emergency teleconference. Since I'm a major donor to the St. Jude Foundation, I took the liberty of sharing the fraudulent nature of your funding. They've officially canceled the procedure. Serafina is being moved to a general ward at the county hospital as we speak. You moved her? A sob broke through his voice. She's too weak to be moved. Then you better go hold her hand in the ambulance, hero, I snapped, because that's the only place you're welcome tonight. Isabella, give me the money! Margaret's voice shrieked in the background. You have millions! What is $72,000 to you? You're killing a girl over a grudge. It's not a grudge, Margaret. It's an audit, I said, my eyes narrowing. And by the way, I just received a notification from my private investigator. It seems Liam didn't just take the $72,000. He also used our joint credit line to buy a diamond pendant last week. I assume that wasn't for me, considering my birthday is 6 months away. Silence. The kind of silence that confirms a crime. Liam? I prompted, my voice dropping to a whisper. Did you think I wouldn't check the billing address? It was delivered to room 402, Serafina's room. Bella, I can explain. Don't, I cut him off. I'm hanging up now. I have an appointment with a locksmith for the office tomorrow. Oh, and Liam? I filed for a temporary restraining order 10 minutes ago based on your financial abuse and harassment tonight. If you come within 500 feet of the penthouse, you won't be going to a hospital. You'll be going to jail. I ended the call. On the screen, I saw Liam throw his phone against the brick wall of the hospital. It shattered into 100 pieces, just like his plans. He collapsed onto one of the crates of his own clothes, burying his face in his hands. Margaret stood over him, gesturing wildly at the sky, looking like a gargoyle in a mink coat. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It wasn't pity. It wasn't even sadness. It was the cold, hard satisfaction of a job well done. I put the car in gear. I had 5 more chapters of his life to dismantle, and I needed to get some sleep. Tomorrow, I was going to see his boss. If Liam Reed wanted to be a martyr for his mistress, he was going to do it without a 6-figure salary to back him up. As I drove away, I caught one last glimpse of them in the rearview mirror. 2 small, desperate figures shrinking into the darkness. The queen was still on her throne. The pawn was in the trash. I woke up at 7 a.m. No puffy eyes, no smeared mascara. I felt like a soldier prepping for a final raid. I dressed in my sharpest power suit, charcoal gray, tailored to perfection, and applied a coat of blood moon red lipstick. It was war paint. By 9 a.m., I was standing in the glass-walled lobby of Sterling & Associates, the prestigious architectural firm where Liam worked as a senior associate, or, as of this morning, where he used to work. Isabella, what a surprise! Marcus, the CEO and a long-time family friend, said as he walked out to greet me. He noticed my expression and his smile faltered. You look like you're here to serve a warrant. Worse, Marcus. I'm here to protect your firm's reputation, I said, my voice projecting just enough to catch the ears of the gossiping receptionists. We stepped into his private office. I didn't sit down. I laid a folder on his desk. "What is this?" Marcus asked, frowning. "Evidence of embezzlement and moral turpitude," I replied. Last night, Liam used the company-linked corporate credit line, the one meant for client entertainment, to secure a private VIP suite for his mistress at St. Jude. He also bypassed our joint accounts to hide a $72,000 theft. But more importantly for you, Marcus, he's been using your firm's private servers to store personal files related to Serafina Vance's medical bills and her previous legal disputes. Marcus blanched. "He did what?" "I told him that server was for the Chicago waterfront project only." "He's compromised, he's distracted, and he's a thief," I said, leaning over his desk. "If this gets out, that a senior associate at Sterling is stealing from his wife to fund a mistress while using company resources. Your upcoming bid for the city's new library is dead in the water. The press loves a cheating husband scandal, especially one involving a dying ex-girlfriend and a stolen organ." The phone on Marcus's desk buzzed. It was his secretary. "Sir, Liam Reed is on line 1. He sounds frantic. He's asking for an emergency leave of absence and a salary advance." I locked eyes with Marcus. "Don't give him a cent. Give him a pink slip." Marcus sighed, a mix of disappointment and pragmatism. He pressed the speakerphone. "Liam?" "Marcus, thank God." Liam's voice came through, sounding like he'd been gargling gravel. He was clearly calling from a payphone or a borrowed mobile. "I have a family emergency. I need to take the next month off. And I really need that quarterly bonus processed today. It's life or death." "It's funny you use those words, Liam," Marcus said, his voice hardening. "Because your career here just died. I've spent the last 10 minutes looking at your expense reports. You're fired, effective immediately. Your personal items will be couriered to... Well, Isabella tells me you don't have an address, so we'll just leave them at the front desk." "What? Marcus, no! You can't do this. Is Bella there?" "Isabella, I know you're there. You're destroying me. How am I supposed to pay for Serafina's care? They won't even give her a bed at the county hospital without a deposit." I stepped closer to the phone, my voice dripping with icy calm. "Maybe she can sleep on those silk blankets Margaret bought, Liam. Or better yet, maybe your heroism can pay the bills. Hard work and honesty certainly didn't." "You're a monster!" Liam screamed through the line. "I hope you rot in that penthouse alone." "I won't be alone, Liam," I smiled. "I'll have my $72,000, my dignity, and the satisfaction of knowing you'll never design so much as a doghouse in this city again. Goodbye, Liam." Marcus cut the line. The silence in the office was deafening. "You're terrifying, Isabella," Marcus whispered. "No." I adjusted my blazer. "I'm just finished being a doormat. Thank you for the coffee, Marcus. Send the termination papers to my lawyer." I walked out of the office, my head held high. As I passed the workstations, I saw Liam's colleagues whispering, their eyes glued to their screens. The news was already spreading. He was officially a pariah. No job, no home, no money. But I wasn't done. Serafina was still breathing, and Margaret was still talking. And as long as they had a voice to complain, my work was unfinished. I headed toward my car. The next stop was the county hospital. I wanted to see exactly what kind of delicate state our little mistress was in. The county hospital was a stark, brutal contrast to the marble halls of St. Jude. The air here didn't smell like lilies. It smelled of floor wax, old grief, and desperation. I navigated the crowded hallways, dodging gurneys and overworked nurses, until I found Ward C. There she was, Serafina Vance. She looked pale, tucked into a thin, scratchy hospital cot. Margaret was hovering over her like a frantic crow, feeding her water from a plastic cup. When the door swung open and my heels clicked against the linoleum, they both froze. "You!" Margaret hissed, dropping the cup. "How dare you show your face here? Haven't you done enough? You took his job. You took his home." "I took what was mine, Margaret," I said, walking to the foot of the bed. I looked down at Serafina. Up close, she didn't look like a delicate soul. She looked like a woman who had gambled on another woman's husband and lost. "So, this is the woman worth $72,000 and a piece of a liver." I have to say, the ROI, return on investment, is looking pretty pathetic. Serafina's eyes fluttered open. "Isabella, please," she wheezed. "I'm sick. I didn't mean for any of this. Liam said you were okay with it." "Liam lied, but you knew that, didn't you?" I leaned over the bed rail, my face inches from hers. "You knew he was taking our house fund. You knew he was lying to me every night he came to visit you. You didn't care about his liver, Serafina. You cared about his wallet. You thought he was your golden ticket out of your medical debts." "He loves me," she cried out, a weak, pathetic sound. "He loves the idea of being a hero because he's a failure at being a man," I retorted. "And you? You're just a parasite who picked the wrong host." "Get out!" Margaret screamed, trying to push me. I grabbed her arm, my fingers digging into her skin until she winced. "I'm leaving," I said, my voice dropping to a terrifyingly low pitch. "But before I go, I thought you should know. I've officially purchased the debt from your previous private medical treatments, Serafina. I found the collection agency. It's amazing what you can buy when you have the cash." Serafina's eyes widened in horror. "What?" "I am now your primary creditor." I smiled, and for the first time, it was a genuine, terrifying grin. "That means every cent Liam tries to scrape together, every dollar Margaret hides in her bra, it belongs to me. I will garnish every future paycheck he ever gets. I will put a lien on any property you ever try to own. You wanted his life? You got it. You got his debt, his poverty, and his failure." "You're a demon," Margaret whispered, shaking. "No, I'm an accountant," I replied. "And your books are finally balanced." Just then, Liam burst into the room. He looked like a ghost. His hair was matted, his clothes were wrinkled, and he smelled of the hospital parking lot. "Bella, stop it! Leave them alone!" he yelled, rushing to Serafina's side. I turned to him, unimpressed. "Look at you, Liam, the great savior. You have no job, no money, and now you have a mistress who is legally tied to me for the next 20 years. How does it feel to be a hero now?" Liam looked at Serafina, then at his mother, then back at me. The realization finally hit him. He hadn't saved anyone. He had dragged them all into the abyss with him. "I'll fight you," he whispered, though there was no fire left in his eyes. "With what lawyer, Liam?" "I've already retained the top 3 firms in the city. Any other lawyer who takes your case will be doing it for free. And we both know you don't attract that kind of charity." I walked toward the door, stopping only to look back one last time. "The surgery is still off, by the way. I checked with the chief of medicine here. Without the private funding from St. Jude, you're just another name on a very long list. Hope that 45% of your liver is worth the wait." I stepped out into the hallway, leaving the 3 of them in the dim, cramped room. The sound of Liam's frantic apologies to a sobbing Serafina followed me all the way to the exit. The air outside felt colder, sharper, and for the first time in 7 years, I felt like I could breathe. Is that the last of it, Isabella? Marcus asked, his voice echoing through the hollow shell of my living room. He stood amidst a sea of cardboard boxes, looking at me with a mixture of awe and genuine fear. Not yet, I replied, pointing a steady finger at the $15,000 professional-grade espresso machine Liam had insisted we buy for his morning rituals. Label that for the estate sale, along with the vintage Rolexes I found hidden in the back of his sock drawer, and that Eames chair he loves so much. I want this penthouse stripped to the concrete by sunset. I wasn't just clearing out furniture. I was dismantling the infrastructure of a lie. Every item sold was a piece of the life Liam thought he had secured by stepping on my back. My phone buzzed with a notification from my private investigator. Target seen at the Rusty Anchor. Liam Reed is currently at a pawn shop trying to sell a gold wedding band. A sharp, jagged laugh escaped my throat. He's down to the gold on his finger, Marcus. He's selling the only thing that officially connected him to me just to buy a night in a room that smells like stale cigarettes and regret. The intercom buzzed. A harsh, intrusive sound. It was the concierge, sounding flustered. Mrs. Reed, a woman named Margaret is downstairs. She's hysterical, ma'am. She's screaming about murder and betrayal. Send her up, I said, my voice dropping into a dangerous low vibrato. I want her to see the funeral of her son's ambitions. 2 minutes later, Margaret burst into the foyer. She looked like a disheveled gargoyle, her designer coat wrinkled and her eyes bloodshot. You've gone too far, Isabella, she shrieked, lunging toward me. I didn't flinch as security stepped between us. Liam is sleeping on a motel floor. Serafina's vitals are dropping because of the stress you've caused. You've frozen the accounts, you've blocked the insurance. Have you no mercy? Mercy is for those who are misled, Margaret, not for those who steal, I said, leaning against a stack of crates. Liam didn't just take $72,000. He took my trust, my time, and my future. And you? You were the one who coached him. I have the emails, Margaret. Wait until Bella is at the gallery to move the funds, you wrote. Did you think I was too stupid to subpoena the servers? Margaret's face turned a sickly shade of gray. She sank onto a packing crate, the air leaving her lungs in a pathetic wheeze. We'll be on the streets. We have nothing. You have each other, I mocked. And you have Serafina. Isn't that what Liam said? That love and life were more important than money? Now you get to prove it. Get out of my home. It's being sold tomorrow, and the proceeds are going to a charity for women who have survived financial abuse. I think they'll appreciate your son's donations more than I did. As security dragged her out, I looked at the empty space where our life used to be. The rage was still there, but it was cold now, focused. Liam still had one thing left. His ego, his belief that he was a martyr for saving his mistress. It was time to strip that away, too. Where are you going? Marcus asked as I grabbed my keys. To the hospital's ethics committee, I said, my eyes flashing with a predatory light. If Liam wants to give 45% of his liver to that woman, he's going to have to do it as a commoner because I'm about to prove he's psychologically unfit to be a donor. I'm going to make him watch her fade while he stands there, useless and whole. The boardroom of the St. Jude Ethics Committee was suffocatingly quiet, smelling of floor wax and corporate apprehension. I sat at the head of the mahogany table, my back straight, facing 3 hospital administrators and the chief of surgery. I looked like a woman in total control, even if my heart was a cold furnace of focused rage. Mrs. Reed, the chief began, adjusting his spectacles as he looked over the thick dossier I had provided. The donor, your husband, has already passed the physical screenings. To halt a transplant on psychological and financial grounds, This late in the process is highly irregular. What is irregular, doctor, is a prestigious hospital facilitating a surgery funded by embezzled money, I replied, my voice slicing through the air like a scalpel. I have already filed a formal complaint with the medical board. Liam Reed is currently under investigation for grand larceny. If you proceed with this surgery using the $72,000 he stole from our joint accounts, St. Jude will be legally complicit in laundering stolen assets. Do you really want that headline in the Chicago Tribune? The administrators exchanged panicked glances. I didn't stop. I leaned forward, my shadow falling over the surgical plans. Furthermore, look at the psychiatric profile I've attached. Liam is currently experiencing a severe messiah complex, triggered by the loss of his career and home. He isn't donating out of altruism. He is in a state of extreme emotional instability. As his legal spouse and the primary holder of the insurance policy he attempted to use, I am formally withdrawing all consent and financial backing. Suddenly, the heavy oak doors burst open. Liam stood there, looking like a man who had been dragged through hell. His eyes were bloodshot, his clothes were stained, and his hands were shaking so violently he had to grip the doorframe. "You can't do this, Bella!" he screamed, his voice cracking with desperation. "I'm the only match! Serafina is dying! You're using the law to commit murder!" "Sit down, Mr. Reed," the administrator commanded. But Liam ignored him, lunging toward the table. "She's doing this out of spite," Liam cried, tears streaming down his face. "She's a cold, heartless bitch who wants to see a girl die just because I fell out of love with her." I didn't flinch. I didn't even raise my voice. "I didn't fall out of love, Liam. I woke up to a criminal. You have no job, no permanent address, and no means to afford the post-operative care required for a donor. If this hospital releases you into the street with half a liver and no support system, they are violating every ethical protocol in the book." The chief of surgery sighed, a sound of heavy finality. "In light of the contested funds and the donor's clear emotional distress, the committee is officially suspending the procedure pending a court-ordered psychiatric evaluation. The case is frozen." "No!" Liam let out a primal, gut-wrenching sob, falling to his knees on the carpet. "She doesn't have time for a court order. Her kidneys are failing, Bella. Please, just let me save her." I stood up, smoothing my skirt with chilling composure. I walked over to him, looking down at the broken man who had once been my world. "You wanted to be her savior, Liam. But you forgot that every hero needs a foundation. You burnt yours to the ground. Now you can watch her fade, knowing you have a perfectly healthy liver that the world won't let you give. That is your legacy." I walked out of the room, leaving the sound of his wailing behind me. The final move was made. "I'm sorry, Mr. Reed. You are not on the visitor list for the ICU. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Now." I stood in the shadows of the hallway at the county hospital, watching the final act of Liam's tragedy. It had been 2 weeks since the ethics committee shut him down. Liam looked like a skeleton draped in rags. He was sitting on the floor outside the intensive care unit, his head buried in his hands. He hadn't showered in days, and the smell of failure clung to him more than the scent of the hospital. Serafina was gone, not dead, but gone from his reach. Her family had finally flown in from out of state. People Liam didn't know, and who wanted nothing to do with the married man who had ruined their daughter's reputation and failed to save her. They had moved her to a facility in their hometown, leaving Liam behind like a piece of discarded medical waste. I stepped out of the shadows, the click of my heels echoing on the linoleum. Liam looked up, his eyes hollow and haunting. "Are you happy now, Bella?" he whispered, his voice a mere ghost of the man who had once shouted at me. She's gone. My mother is living in a shelter. I'm sleeping in a shelter. You took everything, every single thing. I didn't take it, Liam, I said, looking down at him without a shred of the anger that had fueled me for weeks. Only a cold, crystalline clarity remained. You spent it. You spent your career on a lie. You spent our marriage on a fantasy. And you spent your mother's future on a woman who didn't even say goodbye to you before they wheeled her out of here. I loved her, he whimpered. No. You loved the way she made you feel like a hero. But a hero protects his own house before he tries to save the world. You were just a thief with a savior complex. I reached into my bag and pulled out a small white envelope. I dropped it in his lap. He opened it with trembling fingers. It was a check for $2,000. What is this? More mockery? It's the profit from the sale of your espresso machine and your watches, I said. I kept the rest for the debt you owe me, but I'm not a monster, Liam. This is enough for a bus ticket out of Chicago and a month's rent in some town where nobody knows your name. It's your severance package from the life you destroyed. Liam stared at the check, a single tear tracing a path through the grime on his face. Why? Why give me anything? Because I want you to live, I said, leaning down so my face was level with his. I want you to live a long, healthy life with that 100% intact liver of yours. I want you to wake up every morning in a cheap room, in a lonely town, and remember that you had a kingdom. You had a woman who would have burned the world for you, and you traded it all for a thankless mistress and a hospital gown. I stood up and adjusted my coat. The divorce papers are finalized. I kept the penthouse. I kept the cars. I kept the life. You keep the check, Liam. It's the last thing you'll ever get from me. I turned on my heel and walked toward the exit. I didn't look back when I heard him start to sob, a loud, ugly sound that filled the sterile hallway. Outside, the Chicago winter had finally broken. The sun was pale but warm, reflecting off the glass towers of the city I still owned. I walked to my car, feeling the weight of the last few weeks lift off my shoulders. I had been a wife, then a victim, then a predator. But as I started the engine and drove toward my new horizon, I realized I was finally something else. I was free. The kingdom was quiet. The trash had been hauled away, and for the first time in 7 years, Isabella Reed was answering to no one but herself. Kindness without honesty is just a lie. Never betray the person who built a life with you, because once trust is gone, you lose everything. For anyone else, stay strong and keep your own back. Being independent is the only way to make sure no one can ever ruin you. Thanks for listening. If this story hit home, drop a like and tell us what you think in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next one.